Hi, I'm CJ Sorensen, and I've started a new program called CJ's Chatbox. The reason being, I would like to know some of the people here in the village at a deeper, more personal level. Many of the people here have got such interesting lives and experiences to share, and I think they should be shared with the people here that live in the village. So, welcome. Maybe you're one of those people. If so, give me a call. Maybe you'll be my next guest on CJ's Chatbox. Hello and welcome to CJ's Chatbox. Today I have the privilege of visiting with Craig Spradley. Nice to have you here, my dear, even though it's a bit chilly.
Nice to be here.
I thought we would have like sun here at Clubhouse 2, but it's a bit chilly.
Well, spring was here 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And then it left.
It left again.
Well,
We're
you,
lucky.
Greg.
I wanted to find out, I know you have an interesting past, a clean one, but a very interesting one.
What do you
but
mean by clean?
Well,
What does that mean?
it seems like you were proper most of the time.
Most of the time,
Most of the
yes,
time.
of course.
But I wanted to find
Not
out
in jail, so.
where you were born
Okay.
and where was that?
Well, let's see. I was born in Indiana,
Okay.
in Richmond, a little town east on the interstate from Indianapolis, straight
Okay.
over about an hour. And I think we were only there for about a year. My dad was a traveling salesman. My mother was a school teacher, so we moved a lot. So we were there for about a year, I think. Then we moved south into Virginia, and that's really when I guess my life really started. My first memories are there.
Okay. So you put some solid ground beneath your feet?
Right, and we settled down in a little town. Well, when we were in Virginia, we were in first of all, the part of Virginia I was in is rural.
Okay.
So that would have been in the early 50s,
Mm-hmm.
early and mid 50s, and would have been south of Richmond and north of North Carolina,
Right.
just somewhere in a little area straight up in there, and it was very rural and.
But when you say rural, I say farm, and you were
Not farm, not farm, but
No.
but just countryside, country folk.
There you go.
Very simple country folk, as
Right.
far as I can recall. And back then it was, well, I want to get into the politics of the South.
Well, no, I'm going to get to
But
that in a minute.
it was kind of for a kid to grow up in that environment. I don't want to bad talk Virginia, but where I was living, it was very super conservative, like redneck conservative,
Right.
meaning I was in Klan country.
Okay.
I spent the first 9 years of my life growing up in Klan country, if you know what I mean.
Okay, yes, I do.
So that's not an aspersion on all of Virginia, but
Right.
the area where I was. And so I emerged from that, unscathed.
That's interesting in itself, the fact that it didn't leave its mark on you
Well,
somewhere.
it did. It left some marks in that those first 9 or 10 years. Whatever you absorb, that's very formative.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I still catch myself once in a while having some kind of reaction that's alien to me. It seems like, but
Yeah.
I can tell comes from
that.
background. But anyway, after that, but fortunately, both my parents are really highly intelligent. My mother was super smart, very highly educated, and my dad was a very handsome, charming salesman.
You took after your dad, no less?
Well, I don't know if I'm handsome or charming, but maybe a little bit. But
Anyway, so you have three
so
sisters.
here we are. So I have 3 sisters. So this is after we moved out of Virginia. Well, this is in Virginia, come to think of it. We were still living in a little town called Martinsville, which you can find north of Highway 220, up a little ways up in there when you come up out of Greensboro.
All righty then.
And here's my 3 sisters. My older sister Sandra, Sherry, she's now an attorney. Cynthia, she's an accountant. Sandra's an entrepreneur. She's done about everything. And there I am. Look at me, I'm posing already.
Oh my gosh, it was in your DNA to begin with.
Yes, apparently. They're all looking at the camera. Now
Yeah.
Sherry's looking at look at that. She said I can't wait to get out of here, which she did, by the way.
She was
And
quick to leave.
She was gone. She did really well. But there I am. So this is my good side. I think I'll just.
Well, starting that young, how old do you think you are here?
I'm about, let's see, I'm 7 years older than her, so I'd be about 9, maybe
Okay.
8 or 9.
Yeah, you did have the pose already. And along with that, I know that when you went to college, you studied, but when you were in elementary school and middle school and even high school, did you do theater then? Did you do plays?
Yeah, some. When I was in middle, I don't have too many memories of middle school. I do remember the second grade when we did the Thanksgiving play. And
Were you the turkey?
Be careful, I'm going to throw you in the oven without any basting.
Oh, shush.
And,
Okay.
I remember the Thanksgiving play, and they wanted me to be the chief pilgrim. So I was the
Oh,
head pilgrim.
wow.
I had a solo I sang. And even then, I would close my eyes to something to sing. I don't know why I still do that sometimes, to concentrate.
Oh, see the words.
Well, it's just, sometimes I find there's distractions out here.
Right.
So sometimes I'll just close and get it, and then but anyway.
So you always had a voice as well. I mean,
yeah,
singing voice.
Yeah, I always had a singing voice, and I was always put in a glee club or picked out for a solo or something.
Right.
And but I do remember I remember that well because I wanted so bad to be an Indian, like all my buddies got to be Indians,
And you were a pilgrim.
and I had to be the pilgrim. I was too white.
Yeah, right.
You know, they couldn't
didn't-
dress me up as an Indian in any way. Nobody
They
would
didn't
buy
have
it.
any makeup that they
No,
could put on.
the other guys
stars.
were, they looked ruddy and they were so I remember that particularly well, and I think that was probably my first experience on the stage.
So you got the bug then?
I got the bug when I was playing the piano, and I was about 7 or 8, and I went to my recital, and I had prepared, dig this, Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2.
Whoa.
Now, it wasn't the version in the key of B. It was the more reduced child's version in the key of C,
Okay.
which was good for me. I still remember it, by the way. But I remember going to that recital, and just a day or so before, again, I was 7 or 8, just a day or so before, my father had one of his buddies over for supper. A guy named Bob, and he was, to me, he was really funny, and he would look at me at the dinner table and wink, and he looked at me this dinner, and he looked at me right before we started eating. He went like this. He looked at me. And I laughed. I thought that was so funny. Yeah. So when at my recital, just a couple of days later, I don't know what instant, but this is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It was in my DNA. Right before I started to play, I looked out at the audience and I went,
No!
yes. And they fell out laughing. They loved it. And then I played really well. I just killed it. And that was the day I knew. I remember walking up the aisle after I'd played, and these grown-ups were leaning out going, that was great, that was great. That was it for me.
Well, they fed you right there. They fed you that, you're a ham, a born ham.
Now, people like ham, by the way. Let's not put a pejorative on ham.
Thickly sliced, right?
Thin sliced, honey baked ham, that's fine with me.
A little brown sugar.
Little brown sugar.
Oh, well, there you go. So you decided to go to college and study theater.
Well, I did because, it was more of a decision that, my pals were doing it, my high school buddies were doing it.
Were they as good as you in acting? Really?
Yeah, a couple of my friends did real well. And
well, one of the thoughts I had, because I know you've done a lot of theater and you directed, which we'll get into, did you ever want to be like Cary Grant and be in the movies? Was it always theater?
No, that's a good question. I never felt that kind of compulsion to.
But you were used to instant gratification, which you will get in the theater.
Yeah, but I did so much of exactly, and I got a lot of that, and so I never really felt compelled to go to New York, and I just enjoyed what I was doing a lot. And right after I got out of college, I went out on the road and did a lot of theater tours.
Right.
And did that for almost 15 years, and that's where I really learned. I guess I learned a lot about how to read an audience and what the feel of the room is and how to read a room and all that kind of stuff that you learn over time. And when you do a show 5 days a week for 3 months,
Okay,
With a
question
different
there.
audience every night.
Well, that's good,
Yeah.
but still, you have to make it fresh every night,
Yeah,
as if
yeah,
it's
well,
the
that's the
first time.
task.
Well, that's the
That's the
task,
task.
exactly, especially when you do 5 nights in a row, same play.
Right.
The other thing is, were you a quick study so you could
I
learn the
was then.
script?
I was then.
Yeah.
I was pretty
yeah.
good then. Not now, of course.
No, well, we
In
all.
fact, somebody just before the pandemic, I can't remember the man's name. I'm going to be embarrassed. They wanted me to do with one of the theater groups. They're doing a musical version of The Tempest, Shakespeare's The Tempest.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And I've done that part, Prospero. I've done that part before. And they asked me to do it, and I said yes. Unfortunately, thank God the pandemic came, because when I looked at the script and looked at it, and then remembered how much memorization I was going to have to do,
Yeah.
I said, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'm up for that.
Yeah.
Now maybe I could with a lot of study, but.
Well, and also they
Well, it's
have
like, you
little
know, I
cheat
just- yeah.
sheets now that they didn't have then, I suppose.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well,
I mean,
tell us a little bit here about.
this?
This is in your.
Oh,
your
wait a minute. Here's my teenage. This is
Oh my stars! Yes.
Here, I'm 16 years old.
Oh my God.
Much change?
Not at all. Not at all. A little bit hair color is different, but other than that,
And
not
that
much.
was my first little movie in high school. I don't even remember what it was. I remember running through the woods, and the director had a camera, and he was.
Was
following
it?
me.
Oh my God.
It was like a guy being chased by something.
a scary horror flick.
I don't know what. I can't even remember.
Oh,
Here we
dear.
are. That's children's theater. This is. We toured this. This is where I got so sick I almost died after 4 months of going to every middle school in Virginia and South Carolina.
But you picked up everything they were
I
offering
picked
as
up
far as
everything they
virus.
had, and the 3 days after the tour closed, I was sicker than. I was sick for 3 days. Just awful. I
Yeah.
picked up everything. But that was that's a gruel. That's a grueling
It
time.
is, but again, I would think that the comparison, kids versus
you
adults.
want to hear a real story? You want to hear a story about degradation and depravity?
Of course.
Well, back then, should I reveal it? Sure, why not? I'll be dead in 15 years anyway, so who gives a damn, right? Back then, this would have been 1974-ish. 74, 75. So I was only out of college. I was just this tour came out of college, and went on into the year after I graduated. And at the time, everybody was smoking weed.
Oh,
back
boy.
then, and tons of it.
Oh wow.
Now, there were 8 people in the cast, something like that, and everybody was getting up early. You know, you'd get up at 6:45 in the morning. You'd have to be at school and start the show at 7:30
Oh,
for your first show of
my.
the day.
Oh.
So people were just getting up, and we'd everybody roll up and smoke up and go, here we go, and we'd get over to the school. And after you've done this for 3 months, it's just like you're like, oh,
We got another
we
one.
gotta do this again. Hey kids, how you doing? We had a guy. I'm gonna tell you this story. You may have to. There'll be a word in this you have to be aware of. Anyway, we had one character. I think I told you this story. We had a character, Jack in the Box. He just was in a big wooden box, and he'd pop up out of the box, and he would sort of narrate. And then the play was Aesop's Fallables. It was a take on Aesop's Fables, only they had a twist. So he comes up out of the box, and his job every day was to get the kids going, you know, get them jacked up, get some energy, because you always need that. So we were in this big auditorium. It was a gymnasium, I should say, with one of those stages on the side that some of them had. Yeah. And we were on that stage, and the whole place was filled with K1 or K2 through K9.
All right.
All right, the whole school was there.
A broad.
We'd been up, I'm sad to admit that we weren't very professional. The beer was opening early in the day.
Oh my.
The weed was getting smoked immediately. And of course I grew out of that, fortunately. Let me say that.
It wasn't your morning.
It's not my morning regimen anymore, thank you. But at the time, that's just what we were doing.
Yeah.
So anyway, long story short, this guy's name was Daniel. I'm not going to say his last name because he was from California. And he was just there for the show at the time. And so he's Jack in the Box. He pops up out of the box. He's already wasted, I got to tell you. And here's what he does. This is true. I swear to God, every bit of this is true. He comes out of the box and he goes, "Hey, boys and girls, let me hear you say hey." And they go, "Hey." And he goes, and they get Jack, that's not enough. "Come on, boys and girls, let me hear you say hey." And then it's a little louder, "Hey." And he goes, "Come on, you sound like a bunch."
Did they say, hey, louder?
The whole place went dead silent.
Oh.
And nobody's going on stage yet except him. And we're all standing on stage going, did he say what we think he said?
Oh.
He didn't even know he said it. The guy was so wasted, he didn't even know what he said.
Oh,
so we have to go out there and do the play now.
No.
After that, so the next 50 minutes, we're like, get through it, get fast, because there's silence, except for some of the ninth graders. You heard them giggle when we said that.
Because they knew what you were talking about.
Yeah, because they're coming into their age.
All right. Well,
and so,
I love the story, but we have to move along because you've got. Now, this is one of your favorites, I think.
Well, not one of my favorites, but it wasn't one of my dad's favorites.
All right.
This is a play I did called Boys in the Band.
Right.
It was about the 1970s.
Yeah.
And the gay guys getting together, and they have a whole evening, and I played particularly good in this because I didn't really know. I think I was okay. My technique was okay, and I looked okay, so I could just go like this, and people thought it was great, but it really wasn't.
Here we go, another question that I have then, because you studied theater in the college, but did you study method, or how did you get into character?
We studied Stanislavski, a lot of that, and then some method, and acting is believing. There's that great book, and well, I got into character by just thinking about. But the problem with it for me was because I was only 20 maybe when I did that. I really didn't have the kind of emotional maturity you'd like to have to deliver a part like that. And that's the problem with college anyway in a lot of ways.
Well,
you need experience and maturity for a lot of those kind of things.
Again, the same thing. You're not going to get experience until you do this.
So I put myself, okay, if I, Craig, were
that character
gay as a $3 bill.
Yeah, that's
how
you
would I
would
approach
sound.
it? How would I do?
Right.
How would I
now,
think?
The other thing that I found interesting was the fact that you acted in quite a few different things, and we're going to show some pictures of that in a bit here. But you acted in a lot, but then you turned into directing, and you really enjoyed that and supported yourself by doing that. And you would go from certain cities and states. You moved around even in that to different theaters.
Well, that was more regional. Once I started directing, there was a whole area that I could go from different towns and cities to direct for them, and so.
There's probably
that's when I moved back to North Carolina to Charlotte, and when I was living there, I was able to go out. I would go to South Carolina. And they'd call.
But that's again, it's like you're within that circle of directors, and people know who you are, so that they can pick up a phone and call you and say, I have a play I want you to.
I built up a pretty good resume for directing.
Yeah, and I'm quite impressed by that. We're just real quickly. You did a stint here as.
Well, here's my three pals. Now these guys, in the 1980, 1981, and 1982, for about 2.5 years. It was this trio. That's me right there. That cute little feller.
I swear you look so different with your hair, different color.
Well, sure.
I mean, we all do, but it's just like a shocker to see.
It's a shock because now everybody we see has white hair. There's no way around it.
I know. So that's why I have to look twice to see your face because the hair throws me off.
We were a trio, and we sang. We did original songs. We did cover songs. We wrote bits and skits.
Oh, really?
So you get some laughs. This guy went on to be a professional comedian, Todd. He did pretty well.
Yeah.
Fred here, great voice, handsome guy, tall, dark, and handsome. Passed away early at 50, in his late 50s.
Right.
But we went. They were great friends, and that was a great time in my life.
So you did some writing then?
Yeah, we wrote.
And now you wrote music, and maybe skits of sorts. But have you written things for the theater?
No.
You haven't done that?
That's difficult.
The other thing that I wanted...
in college in my playwriting class.
Oh, okay.
And I can't even remember what I wrote. I must have written something good because I got an A in the class. So.
I guess. Well, the idea also of the fact that you pick theater and not film, not going into the movies or anything, and the fact that you pretty much then, it was a learn as you go because of the traveling and at the age you were and taking on that role as director. And I think we talked a bit about the fact
how do you recognize, unless someone auditions for the play and you say, well, he was better than she was or whatever, and then you pick them, that if you were in a place, say, we talked a bit about this too here in the village. Yes, there are a couple of different, Old Pros and Theater Guild, but what if you were playing pickleball with somebody and you said, wow, that guy would play a great, and then whatever part you...
So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you see that in people that
Sure,
you meet?
sure. And in fact, when I was casting and directing, the first thing I would think of is, do they look right? Do they look right for the part? And then it becomes more subjective. You got to say, okay, he reads well, or she's reading it really well. I like the way she's doing. She could fit in. But then the trick to me was always, you don't cast the part, you cast the play. And by that I mean, I'll give you a quick anecdote. I was directing Kiss Me Kate, and the local favorite did not get cast in the lead because I had another idea in mind. And after the audition and this and that, she was upset, and her husband came up with her. And they were local big shots in this community theater. There are always some in every theater. There's your established group. So I said to her, look, I cast you in this part because I had two ladies for the lead. I had you and the other lady. You can do more than she can. You're more versatile. I can use you in this, this, and this. I can only use her in this. I need you to do one of these other things. And that was upset. I said, and then her husband made a good point to her and said, he doesn't cast the part. He casts the play. See what I mean?
Yes.
There's a difference. You have to look at what you've got, and you have to make them fit as best you can,
Right. Well, what you've got to pick from.
Well, what you have to pick from,
the auditions.
you got to, if someone can do more than one thing, then in some ways that'll hurt them if they want a particular thing because they're more versatile. You can use them in this, and that.
Right.
So that's the trick to me, was how do I cast the whole piece and make all these characters fit together just right.
And the exciting part for me, because I only I wrote a play and then directed it a couple times, but to me the exciting part was picking someone that you thought could do the part, but then they didn't believe they could, but you had to say, but I know you can.
Yeah,
and
I've had that experience.
That trust, and then to pull that out of them, saying, try it this way with this kind of feeling, and then they do it, and then so they build up trust in you again.
I ran into that now and then too. And
isn't that exciting, that rewarding?
It's very rewarding. It's really gratifying when you see someone that doesn't know, that's never done it, and you help them get that first big laugh.
Oh.
You've shown them how to make the timing or whatever, and,
yes.
and how to focus it, and how to direct the audience's attention to where they need to be to make it work. And you're somebody that's like an amateur, like some of these folks back here, they've never had that experience, and they're in front of people, and you see them light up when they get that laugh, and they go, wow. And that's really gratifying as a director, as you know.
Yes, but it becomes addictive for them.
Sure, that's what you want. You want them.
They want more and more. Give me another role. Give me another role.
You want them to be excited about it.
Oh, my stars.
But all this time, I was always playing music. Always playing music.
So were you playing all kinds of music, or just the keyboard?
I was playing music. I was playing keyboard and guitar.
Okay.
All my life. I started on the piano. You were 3 years old. You climbed up on the piano, and you crawled up on the piano and picked out by ear the Mickey Mouse Club theme.
No.
And she said, Jim, your father and I looked at each other and went,
wow. He has some DNA there we didn't know about.
Yeah, he's got something going on there. So then she put me in lessons for that later on when I got older. But
so I've
always had that.
Always exercised. Yeah, here's another one of you.
Here we go.
And what's the name of the play here?
This is called Flaming Guns of the Purple Sage.
Oh, wow.
It's a very, very funny, excellent play.
And this is
my late wife, Pam. She played the
gorgeous
lead.
Lady.
Gorgeous, talented gal. She was a rodeo rider, Big 8, they called her, because she was the only one that could stay on the horse for 8 seconds. You know what I'm saying? Big 8, they called her.
Really?
She made 8 seconds. This is the gal, and this is her good friend over here. I can't remember the character's name.
Oh my.
And she was her good Flaming Guns of the Purple Sage.
You all ever live in bed.
Well, thank you, Baxter.
And here's Deputy Baxter Blue, and I'm in love with her.
Oh, wow.
And I'm up here declaring my love for her to all the world. And this is the weird girl. I can't remember too much. She shows up, and then there's another rodeo rider cowboy that shows up, and he's young and handsome.
Wow.
And she decides to take him to bed, and he comes out on
A little risque.
and a little bit
risque.
but not in any bad sense, except when he comes out later on and he's only wearing a jock strap,
Oh dear.
and he gets up on and she spills the Cheerios up on the counter, and then they're making out on the counter, and then he stands up and he's got Cheerios all over his butt.
Oh no, that brought laughs.
And that got huge laughs.
I can imagine.
Huge laughs. So it's a very funny play. This was a professional theater.
Now, what about doing that one
Actors
here at
Theater. They'd love this play here. It'd be a
Oh.
great show. It's not dirty.
Right, it's just funny.
It's just funny, and you have to accept the conventions of
Yeah,
a
yeah. Well, at least
handsome
you
young
didn't
guy
do-
running around. They'd love it here. Are you kidding? A handsome young guy running around in a jock strap.
Right, it would be a hit.
Yeah, that's a good theater. That's Actors Theater of Charlotte. That's a professional theater. As this was from the same theater company. This is called Clybourne Park. Clybourne Park.
Here you are again with
Right. That's
a
Act Two.
youngster.
I'm well. This was 2015 or so, so I'd have been 54 or something like that.
wow.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's a sort of a sequel to A Raisin in the Sun.
Oh my.
If you remember that show,
Oh, yeah.
it's about a house that they,
yeah.
and then it turns out that the house that this play is centered in is the same house.
Oh, I
So
see.
it's a sort of a continuum,
Right.
only in modern times, and it sort of deals with the same issues.
Okay.
And
Well-
Marcus Lycus, he's the local pimp where all the courtesans live, and he steps out and he scratches the numbers over the door, which, like the McDonald's sign, says 10 billion served, and he adds 2 more to it, and this seemed appropriate.
Ladies and gentlemen, had a satisfying experience.
The other thing that hit me when we were talking was about the fact that all your moving around that you
Right.
did, and that I made the connection with your dad being a traveling salesman,
right.
and the fact that you guys moved a lot,
Yeah,
and so
I
that you moving a lot didn't,
It's never bothered me. And when I was, I went out on the road after college and moved all over the place, from here
Yeah.
to Tulsa, Oklahoma,
Yeah.
to Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
And
Well, listen, I'm glad that you made it. I'm glad that you made it to the village.
I'm glad I'm here, because this is where I'm stopping.
This is where you're
This is where I'm gonna
stopping?
stop.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I'm happy that this is
And
the
I
place.
think you're right. What that means is I was always able to adapt.
Yes.
Wherever I ended up, I was able to adapt to it. So
You're good, and you still are entertaining.
thank you. I hope so. Because the tips have been pretty good every Sunday, so let's keep that up. I'm hoping.
Craig, thank you so much for being my guest.
Well, thank you, CJ. It's been my pleasure. I hope it was interesting.
Your life is interesting.
We'll see.
You may not think so, but I did. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.